There is no right way to play a tabletop role-playing game, but there are certainly plenty of ways to play an RPG. It can be play by post, it can have no GM or be GM-less, it could be a lyrical-based TTRPG, or it could be a TTRPG that's based entirely off text. Or it could be a TTRPG that's made for one person. But the most well-known and well-regarded way to play D&D and other tabletop role-playing games is in person around a table with loved ones or at a convention. This has been the trajectory of TTRPGs since their very foundation, and many gamers, old and new, often see pictures, see people play, or have fun at the table. But with the advent of the internet, and especially how COVID has affected in-person play, I think RPGs and the game scene have changed drastically. And as someone who entered the scene relatively recently in the past 5 years, I can say for a fact that playing in person is very different from playing online. So today I'll be talking about the benefits and downsides of playing online in a TTRPG. And the first benefit to playing a TTRPG online is the flexible schedule and lifted time constraints. Time constraints are way easier to deal with in an online game because you don't have to worry about physically traveling to somewhere. That means you don't gotta deal with stinky nerds commuting to or from a video game or board game cafe and the general unpleasantries of being in a public space. Or if you're hosting a game at a friend's place, you don't have to worry about bringing snacks or food or other things that you're going to need to play a game with. All you really need is your computer and Discord and or a video conferencing software. Plus, you can play with people all around the world. While time constraints for in-person games are related to location, online games are not. So you could play with a player who lives in the Netherlands, or who lives in Nigeria, or who lives in India. You can play with people all across the world, and that's the benefit to playing online. Another positive is that virtual tabletops make running and playing in RPGs way easier at certain times. In an in-person game, you might need miniatures, gridded maps, a physical book, and dice to run a game. Obviously, it depends on the system, but those are some of the general things you might need. Now, while you don't need all of that and can certainly play without gridded maps or miniatures, it certainly enhances the gaming experience. Whereas in a virtual tabletop, you can do all of that online. If you need online art assets, character generators, and hundreds of pieces of free and community created content, it exists. Here's a couple of examples. For Reddit, there are plenty of places to find battle maps, from R battle maps to specifically tokens for your characters, like R battle tokens. And there's a list of sources on creating battle maps and generating pre-gen battle maps as well. If you want to find or create character art, there's Hero Forge, or RPG Character Makers, or DM Heroes, or the several pit crew websites that exist. Trust me, there's a lot of them. Or if you want to find online art, you can use DeviantArt or Pinterest. So you're open to an endless amount of artwork, created material, and things you can implement into your virtual tabletop without having to worry about finding a particular miniature or finding a particular gridded map that you might need for your TTRPG in person. To tack on the virtual tabletop aspect, online games, especially using Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, or even Tabletop Simulator, have easier implementation of source material for games like Dungeons & Dragons, Call of Cthulhu, Pathfinder, or other very popular TTRPGs. For example, Roll20, a virtual tabletop, has plenty of one-shots and modules you can buy and use readily available once you get them off the website. I mentioned earlier Dungeons & Dragons and Call of Cthulhu, but if you look on the marketplace, there are plenty of modules, one-shots, and things you can easily buy and then implement in your game within a matter of minutes. You don't need to create any of the tokens or assets in order to run these, and they give you all the necessary material to run any and everything in Roll20. Whereas if you buy the physical book for, say, a module, you're gonna need to get all of the assets, all of the miniatures, or anything that might be useful to enhancing that game experience in person. Another major benefit that I've noticed over time is finding players is easier. Well, kinda. More so, you can be specific with the kind of players you want to play with online. When you confront or go to, say, a conference like a gaming convention, or maybe an event, or maybe you're with friends or at a cafe, you're subject to the people at the table. You're subject to the people in the conference or in the cafe. When you're playing online, you can cater your group to the people you want. Instead, you can go on RLFG and find players for your specific game and wants. I personally like to try to cater my group towards being queer and trans inclusive, so I usually invite queer and trans people to play TTRPGs with me. Now, that doesn't mean I can't play with straight people, or that doesn't mean that I don't. It means that I'm able to cater my group, and because of the large diversity of people that exist in the RPG hobby, I'm able to find them. And you might be thinking, wow, this guy loves online TTRPGs. And yeah, I do. They have been foundational to my RPG experience both as a game master and as a player. But I do enjoy playing in person. I love playing in person when I get the chance. And I think the biggest and worst downside to playing a TTRPG online is the loss of connection. Not literally as an internet or video connection, I'm talking about the human connection you have between people. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, whether you enjoy playing as a drunkard sailorman or a fancy snobby wizard, there's heart to playing a TTRPG in person. And no amount of video conferencing software, online virtual tabletops, or material can replace that. There's a reason why playing D&D with your friends after school is an iconic image for many nerds. There's a reason why Gen Con, DreamCon, and DragonCon exist. It's because nerds love the feeling of being around people in person. You lose something when you play a virtual tabletop game online, and that is the emotion and emotional impact of being around people in a table with a like-minded interest of having fun together. While online games might feel and are certainly efficient, in-person games can be emotionally involved because you're directly interacting with people and you're able to register emotion and talk to them and speak to them and eat together. Another point, some TTRPGs are also just better in person. There are plenty of niche and indie itch.io RPGs that are GM-less or made for players to play in person. I think the best example of this is Alice is Missing, a game where you cannot communicate to each other via speaking. To solve the mystery, you need to use in-game clues, indicators, and your own personal wit in this quote-unquote silent role-playing game about the disappearance of Alice Briarwood. This game will ask you to text the people in the group to communicate amongst other activities that will help you solve this mystery in 3 hours. Now, Roll20 has features to play Alice is Missing online, but you cannot replace or exactly replicate that experience of playing Alice is Missing, a very emotionally intensive game, online. That's something you miss, the human connection, and there's a reason why a lot of people love playing RPGs in person, and it's because of that personal connection that you create between your players and or the game masters at the table. So I presented both several benefits and my personal major downside. What do you think? Do you think I'm missing something? While I might have talked about online games in a more positive light, I still love watching and playing in-person games. You lose out on some of the level of emotion and investment in online voice chat or even online voice and video chat TTRPGs. But for some, convenience matters more. And also, you can have an emotionally driven and fun time playing online games. Trust me, I've done it. It just takes some more time and effort. But I have a question for you. Would you play an online game? And if you do, what is your experience? Do you think it's better than playing in person? What are your benefits and downsides? Let me know down below in the comment section. And no matter what way you play your game, there's something worse than a crappy player. In fact, I have a video about red flags that will help you decide on players for your next online or offline game. As always, I'm your average everyday queer host, Blurry Disposition. Hope you all have an awesome day. Ciao.